Sometimes the soil rejects you, not because you are unworthy, but because you are meant to plant elsewhere. The coastal town of Bori was humming again. Boats docked and swayed on the glistening waters, fishermen yelled prices by the jetty, and a salty breeze carried whispers of the river's ancient secrets. Yet, amidst this riverine bustle stood Elder Adams' compound, a home once proud and full, now quiet with the slow fade of a patriarch's breath. Elder Adams, a native son of Bori and a retired Nigerian railway officer, had spent most of his working life in the north but always carried Bori in his blood. During his years in service, he bought 8 expansive plots, each bordering the river except one. 7 plots embraced the flowing tides, perfect for fishing, transport, or water trade. But the eighth lay inland, landlocked, dry, hemmed in by its water-rich siblings. An orphaned island among coastal kings. As his breath grew frail and eyes fogged with age, Elder Adams summoned his 8 sons, born of 2 women, raised with different fires. "Pick by your seniority," he said, voice trembling like the rusted train whistles of his past. "But remember, land may shape wealth, but character shapes the man." The eldest, Monday, picked the westernmost riverbank, blessed with the deepest docking space. Oak, the next, chose beside Monday, claiming the slope rich with palms. Olu, Tijani, Kiki, Frederick, and Para followed, each pointing at riverside plots with the eagerness of kings claiming kingdoms. The last was Damini, quiet, slim, sharp-eyed, the only child of Madame Sarah, a Kogi woman Elder Adams met during his travels in Lokoja. As Damini approached, the silence felt heavy. The only remaining land was the inland plot, the landlocked plot. There were no fish in that dust. No canoes could dock. No tides kissed its edges. Just dry, boxed land fenced on all sides by the plots of his half-brothers. He swallowed hard and nodded. "I'll take it." A chuckle spread like wildfire. "You sure you're our brother?" Tijani teased. "Abby he wan go build boat inside bush." Oak added. The rest laughed. Even Elder Adams smiled faintly, but a sadness lingered in his eyes. Within weeks, things worsened. Mr. Okiki, ever the schemer, proposed they fence off the entire stretch of land, for security. At a family meeting, Damini objected. "But that would cut off access to the river," he said. "How will my family fetch water? How will we trade?" Okiki shrugged. "You chose land without water, my brother. That's not our fault." And so, the Great Wall of Rejection began. Blocks stacked, cement poured, gates locked. Damini watched as his daughters, Mary and Martyr, began rising at 5 a.m. to trek to Pa Abi's land, the only route that still allowed access to the river. The girls, in tattered sandals, carried blue buckets on their heads, dancing between laughter and fatigue. Still, they never complained. Their mother, Madame Ada, had raised them well. "You do not curse the soil you walk on," she would say. "Even dry land can grow fruit if watered with dignity." Damini wrote letters, sent word, begged for a family gathering. None showed. He even bought a keg of palm wine to pacify them. Only Pa Abi came, old and hunched, resting on his carved walking stick. "They will come when the tide turns," Pa Abi muttered. "Tide?" Damini asked. "Yes, when the river that fed them begins to bite. Rivers are not loyal, my son. They move." Mary and Martyr, though young, became local darlings. Their grace amidst struggle moved hearts. They helped market women carry wares, cleaned community wells, and offered food to beggars. One afternoon, Martyr returned with blisters. She had slipped on gravel while fetching water, scraping her knees. Damini boiled with anger, fists clenched. That night, he stood by the fence, staring at the moonlit wall his brothers built. He whispered, "You may keep me from the river, but you can't keep my story from flowing." News came. Elder Adams was dead. His final journey was to be celebrated like royalty. The burial preparations began, and the will was read. To everyone's surprise, Elder Adams had legalized each son's inheritance before his death. Every plot was officially documented. Damini hesitated at first, refusing to register his land. But Madame Ada convinced him. "Do not fight out of pride. Sign it, own it. Let history record that you existed." And so, Damini's inland plot was marked, registered, and filed with the Bori Lands Department. The 7 brothers scoffed. "Let him keep his dry dust," Tijani laughed. "He's building castles on, quote, cracked earth," Kiki added. They didn't know that cracked earth was sitting on Destiny's main road. When men build walls to keep you out, heaven opens gates to lift you above. The dry wind blew through the broken zinc sheets of the Damini home, whistling like an omen. Morning light bounced off the rising concrete wall that now stood defiantly between Damini's plot and the river. Mr. Okiki, master planner of division, had completed his fencing project. What began as a community security measure had turned into a fortress, a high wall of mockery and control. Damini's compound was now a prison without bars, cut off from the flowing heartbeat of Bori. Inside the house, Mary tightened the thread on her father's worn slippers. Her fingers moved swiftly, taught by necessity, shaped by scarcity. Beside her, Martyr swept the sandy compound, humming softly. "Papa, they've closed the Pa Abbey route too," Mary said quietly. Damini paused. "Who did?" "Mr. Frederick and Mr. Para. They said you've been trespassing." Martyr added, "They poured broken bottles on the footpath, we can't pass barefoot anymore." A long silence. Damini stood up, grabbed his walking stick, and walked toward the back of the fence, the place where a tree once stood, now uprooted, the path sealed. He ran his hand across the cement. It was smooth, and heartless. The meeting of dust and spite. In desperation, Damini called for another family meeting. This time he sent personal messengers. He even invited Chief Diri, the local youth chairman, and Elder Toku, a retired community judge. Only 2 brothers arrived. Tijani and Frederick, both late, both chewing gum, both uninterested. "My compound is fenced in. My children now walk over a mile to fetch water," Damini said, voice trembling. "Let me at least create a footpath." Frederick scoffed. "Create it in your dreams." Tijani laughed, tossing his cane into the sand. "You're not even one of us. You think being born of a Lokoja woman makes you a full son." Chief Diri rose. "Gentlemen, this is not how a community thrives. You all shared land, but land is useless without people. Don't make a brother a stranger." But Tijani slammed his chair and left. Frederick shrugged. "Call another meeting. Maybe the river will attend." Salt in the wound. The next day, Okiki called for a party, a celebration of security completion. Music blared. A large banner read, "Progress and Protection. Okiki family secures the coast." There were grilled fish, bottles of schnapps, and women in loud wrappers dancing. From Damini's compound, Mary and Martyr watched in silence. One drunk cousin climbed on a plastic chair and shouted, "3 cheers for the river men. And for the landlocked ones, maybe they'll learn to fly." Laughter erupted. That night, Madame Ada sat on the wooden bench beside Damini. "I didn't marry a weak man," she said. "I'm not weak," he replied. "Then stop begging water from those who drown in pride. Let's make this land mean something." Weeks later, news spread across Bori. The state government had awarded a road construction contract to Manto Construction Company. The road would cut across parts of the coastal estates, from Capero Jetty through Eastern Layout, right alongside Damini's compound. Surveyors arrived, measured, mapped, and nodded. "This stretch here," one said, pointing, "we'll need to expand this. And it clips about 8 meters into this man's plot." Damini stepped forward. "It's mine. I have the documents." He presented his certificate of occupancy, stamped, sealed, and verified. By the following week, Manto Construction wired 10 million nairas into Damini's Zenith Bank account as compensation. Shockwaves. When the trucks rolled in, caterpillars pushing dirt and clearing brush, the brothers emerged like startled ants. "Who approved this?" Kiki barked. "Why didn't they cut our land?" Oak fumed. "They said your fences made your plots inaccessible," the project supervisor replied casually. "We needed an open stretch. And this man's land was the only one available." Frederick stared at Damini. "You knew this would happen." "No," Damini replied, voice steady. "But I knew that walls don't stop the sky." The brothers were speechless. That evening, Ada took her husband's hand. "We must build something. Right here. Something alive." Damini nodded. By month's end, a wooden structure stood beside the new road, a small eatery named Ada's Kitchen, selling rice, pepper soup, and bottled drinks. Mary and Martyr ran the front. Ada cooked. Damini served. Drivers from Manto Construction stopped there daily. Laughter returns. One afternoon, a Manto supervisor spilled pepper soup on his file. Mary quickly wiped it clean with a smile. "Your children are good," the man said. Damini nodded. "Born in drought, but they bloom." The man laughed. "We need sight hands. Let them work part-time, pay them weekly." From that day, Mary and Martyr began working on the site, carrying tools, learning fast. They were saving for something big. Martyr said, "I'll be a doctor one day." Mary replied, "Then I'll build the hospital for you." They laughed, sweat streaking their faces, proud and joyful. A wind, a fall. One evening, during Harmattan season, a storm rose. The sky darkened. Winds roared through Bori like an angry god. A telecom mast, being installed just 100 meters from Damini's land, snapped mid-installation. With a thunderous crash, it fell into Damini's compound, crushing part of the fence and the kitchen's back extension. No one was hurt. They had closed early due to the storm. The next morning, a black SUV arrived. From it stepped Mrs. Alasola, risk manager of the telecom company, flanked by her legal and engineering teams. "We're here about the incident," she said. "May we see the landowner?" Damini brought out his documents. She examined them and nodded. "We'll return tomorrow," she said. By 10 a.m. the next day, a letter was delivered. A check was enclosed. 50 million nairas for structural damage, risk exposure, and emotional distress. The hand that digs a pit forgets, but the earth remembers. The sun rose over Bori like a witness with folded arms. It cast long shadows over the dusty fence of the Damini compound, now broken in parts, ironically, by the very mast that had once been a symbol of elite infrastructure. What the river denied him, the sky delivered in a thunderous gift. 50 million nairas. Compensation. Recognition. A reversal of fortune. Mr. Damini, once mocked as the landlocked goat, was now the wealthiest among his brothers. But he wore it lightly. No gold chains. No loud celebrations. Just a fresh coat of paint on Ada's kitchen, a rebuilt back extension, and new chairs for customers. Word spread like wildfire. By the end of the week, all 7 brothers gathered, this time not to mock, but to bargain. They arrived in clean kaftans and pressed agbatas, faces tightened with false humility. Monday, the eldest, opened the meeting. "Brother Damini, let's speak as blood. Our father left everything to be shared among us. That land you got, we all know it was from the same pot." Damini folded his arms. "Go on." Kiki stepped in. "The mast fell, yes. But you wouldn't have had the land if not for our father's decision. So, the money should be shared. Fairly. Among 8. Frederick added, "You can even keep half. Just give us the other half. We are your brothers, not enemies." Damini stared at them, one by one. Then, with a sigh, he stood up. "I will give you something." Murmurs of satisfaction filled the room. He raised his hand. "I will give 10 million nairas, but not to you. I will give it to your children, directly, for their education." Silence. Then Tijani exploded. "What insult is this? Give it to us. We'll train our children. You built fences, Tijani. Blocked paths. Closed my family off. If you didn't see us as family when we were suffering, don't suddenly discover kinship now that the rain has fallen." Infuriated, Kiki and Tijani petitioned the village elders. A town hall was summoned under the ancient Iroko tree, led by Chief Omogbolo, the oldest man in Bori. Damini came with his land documents, receipts, and even pictures of the broken fence and the fallen mast. Tijani came with swagger. This man was lucky, he spat. But luck isn't ownership. We all own that land. Chief Omogbolo adjusted his glasses and spoke. "The land each of you received was documented. The river plots you took were not disturbed by Damini. But he, though landlocked, never asked you for a share of your fish. Now that the sky favored him, you want to divide the sky." Whispers rippled across the gathering. The chief raised his staff. "Let it be recorded. Damini alone owns his land. And any wealth from it is his by law and tradition." Brothers in the mud. Weeks passed. But jealousy is a disease with a slow cure. Kiki and Tijani, still fuming, took the matter to the local court in Port Harcourt. This time, they came armed with a lawyer from a popular firm. Damini came alone, with documents. The court session was brief. Once the certified copies of the Bori land register were shown, the judge leaned back. "Case dismissed. Damini has full ownership. Filing further claims without new evidence will attract sanctions." He turned to Kiki and Tijani. "You seek to profit from someone's misfortune turned miracle. Shame." A fine of 500,000 nairas was imposed for court time abuse. Humble waters rise. Meanwhile, Damini expanded Ada's kitchen into a full mini lodge and restaurant, employing 10 young people from the community. Mary and Martyr, always helpful, always focused, began applying to universities abroad. They took online entrance exams, wrote essays by kerosene lamp, and studied even while cooking. Their dream, to become medical doctors. One day, a letter came from the U.S. Martyr opened it slowly. Her scream echoed into the evening sky. Mary, Mary, we got it. We both got it. Harvard Medical School. Ada dropped her cooking spoon. Damini froze in prayer. The scholarship covered tuition, housing, and even stipends. The same community that once mocked them now cheered and wept at the town hall send-off. The same elders who once called them bush girls from dry land now brought gifts and wrappers. A river comes home. 3 months after the girls left, a water tanker truck pulled up in Bori, painted bright blue with golden lettering. M&M Relief Water Initiative. Each week, it delivered free water to compounds deep inland, including those of Damini's brothers. Funded anonymously from abroad. Until one day, an envelope arrived at Chief Omogbolo's palace. Inside, a thank you letter and picture of Mary and Martyr in white coats, standing proudly with stethoscopes around their necks. At the bottom, from the landlocked children you refused water. Those who cannot drink your sweat will try to feast on your blood. The silence in Damini's compound was golden now, but not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that came after envy had been fed, yet left hungrier. His brothers' laughter had faded. Their mockery had turned to murmurs. And behind closed gates in the riverside compounds, plans were brewing. The tale of the landlocked son who rose had become a legend across Bori, told in salons and markets, whispered among traders at the jetty. And that legend embarrassed them. New moves, old wounds. At the newly built Ada's kitchen and lodge, business boomed. Local workers, travelers, even company contractors now lodged in the clean, affordable rooms painted in warm hues of yellow and blue. One morning, a courier arrived with 2 letters. One was addressed to Damini. The other to the Bori District High Court. Inside, a lawsuit, filed again by Kiki and Tijani, not for land this time, but for alleged fraud and misrepresentation. The accusation, that Damini had tampered with the land boundary, adjusted documentation, and connived with the telecom company for inflated compensation. Damini handed the letter to his lawyer, a calm, soft-spoken man named Barrister Laja. This is madness, Ada whispered. It's desperation, Damini replied. They've run out of shame, and now they want a court to print them some. The court of blood. The Bori District High Court was packed. Youths, elders, traders, all came to watch what had become the town's most dramatic family trial. Tijani arrived in sunglasses and a white lace agbada. Kiki wore a red cap tilted sideways like a local king. Behind them stood 3 hired lawyers from a Port Harcourt firm. Damini walked in with Barrister Laja, and a quiet confidence. Judge Amadi Okonkwo, a man known for patience and scorn in equal measure, presided. Let's proceed, he said. Tijani's lawyer presented old aerial photographs, pointed to supposed expansions in Damini's plot, and claimed that Damini intentionally placed himself in the way of government development. Objection, Barrister Laja said calmly. My client did not place himself anywhere. He was born on that land. It was your clients who placed walls around him. Gasps. The judge raised a brow. Damini stood, holding a bundle of documents. These are the same certificates of occupancy all my brothers received. Same signatures. Same approval dates. Mine just happened to be on land they considered useless. He looked directly at the judge. But the earth does not belong to those who mock it. It belongs to those who honor it. The turning point came when the court clerk read aloud a letter from the Bori Lands Registry, confirming that Damini's plot boundaries were untouched since Elder Adam's original distribution. Then came the testimony of Mrs. Alasola, the risk manager from the telecom company. Sir, she told the court, the mast fell due to faulty base installation, not land manipulation. We assessed damage fairly. Mr. Damini's documentation was the most straightforward we'd ever encountered. Judge Amadi leaned back in his chair. This court does not exist to avenge envy. He struck his gavel once. Case dismissed. Countercharges of defamation and legal harassment admitted. Court fines of 750,000 nairas to be paid by the plaintiffs. The turn of apology. The next few days were humiliating for the brothers. News of the failed lawsuit and the judge's harsh words spread. A local newspaper headlined it. Damini 2-0. The landlocked son still wins. One by one, the brothers began to show up, first Frederick, then Oak, then Monday. "I'm not here for money," Monday said. "But my son, Chima, he's brilliant. He wants to study engineering. You said you'd help our children." Demini didn't hesitate. He sent 1 million nairas to Chima's school account that same day. Tijani and Kiki, proud but desperate, waited the longest. But when they came weeping. "Forgive us," Kiki said. Tijani knelt. "I don't want to be the reason my children hate their uncles." Ada watched from the window, eyes moist. Mary and Martyr, now in their final year at Harvard, had sent another 10 million nairas from scholarships, grants, and part-time hospital work, asking their father to support the community in their name. The gift of the son. With the money, Demini established the Landlock Son's Foundation, an educational trust for youth in Bori, focusing on children of waterside laborers who never had the chance to go to school. Every brother's child received something. Even Kiki's daughter, who once laughed at Mary's tattered sandals, now called to say, "Uncle Demini, thank you. I want to become a lawyer, like your barrister Laja." He smiled. The walls that once kept them apart were now being replaced with bridges built from humility and time. A prayer at the jetty. One evening, as the tide rolled in slow, golden waves, Demini stood quietly at the old Capero jetty. He wore simple clothes. No noise, no crowd. He brought flowers and dropped them in the water. "For you, Father," he whispered. "You gave me dust, but God made it into bread." Behind him stood Ada, and beside her, the community, in quiet reverence. The river does not forget the tree that shaded it. The air in Bori buzzed with a kind of joy that felt sacred. From the dusty corners of the inland roads to the bustling jetty where fishers once mocked the landlocked children, something was stirring, something bright and healing. A large white banner fluttered in the breeze at the town square, right beside the community clinic, which had long stood abandoned. Grand opening. M&M Community Medical Outreach, free health services for all. The initials stood for Mary and Martyr. The landlocked daughters had returned. Arrival of angels. A convoy of modest black SUVs turned into the newly tarred road that once led only to rejection. Inside were two women, glowing in white coats with golden embroidery along the cuffs. Dr. Mary Demini, cool-headed and exact like her mother. Dr. Martyr Demini, the firebrand, brilliant and witty like her father. They stepped down, embraced by a sea of cheers. The town erupted in songs. The market women danced. Elder Toku broke down in tears. Even Chief Omogbolo, now frailer but still respected, whispered to Ada. "Your wound gave us what our river could not." Inside the new M&M Medical Center, villagers received care they'd never imagined. Free checkups, ultrasounds, blood tests, eye screening. Young women who had never seen a stethoscope now held one. Old fishermen who thought their aching knees were spiritual now understood arthritis. Children giggled as Martyr tickled their bellies during exams. Mary taught teenage girls about hygiene and ambition. "Being born poor is not a curse," she said, "but dying with your dreams buried, that is." As the outreach continued, each of Demini's brothers came, one after another, not for money this time, but healing. Frederick brought his daughter, limping from an untreated ankle infection. Kiki's wife needed prenatal care. Even Tijani, who once mocked the girl's sandals, now watched as Martyr carefully removed a boil from his back. "Thank you," he whispered. Martyr simply smiled. "Uncle, we treat pain, not pride." Outside, a golden plaque was unveiled. In honor of Elder Adams, whose children turned land into legacy. An evening of songs. That night, a celebration was held in the compound that was once dismissed as useless dry land. Now it held a lodge, a clinic, and a kitchen that served over 200 people daily. Mary and Martyr sat beside their father and mother, dressed in matching blue wrappers, surrounded by people who once turned their backs on them. A choir of young children sang, "Water may turn from you, but if your roots are deep, even the skies will rain for you." The entire compound wept. Even the moon seemed to bow. The last conversation. Late that night, Demini sat by the broken section of the old wall. Martyr joined him with a mug of tea. "You remember when you used to say, 'They blocked our river but not our dreams'?" He chuckled. "I was just trying not to cry. You built a road, Papa, not just through land, but through hearts." Mary joined them, holding a small envelope. "What's that?" Demini asked. "Our official invitation," she said, smiling. Next month, we're meeting the UN medical delegates in Geneva. They want to replicate our community model in other places. Damini said nothing for a while. Then quietly, so, they will learn about the landlocked son. The moral echoes. That pain can plant purpose. That rejection is not the same as failure. That fences cannot stop the hand of God. That when children are raised with dignity, the world will rise to salute them.